Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back. Now today we have AJ's grandpa's van back inside the shop. Reason for it is because we did the first episode where we gave it a basic wash. We cleaned the wheels, we washed the paint, and it looked amazing. We pulled it inside, we did a full interior cleaning and restoration. However, now looking back at the actual paint, just by feeling it, you'll hear that it's extremely contaminated. It's super scratched and swirled up. So we want to make sure that we get this van back to AJ's grandpa in a great looking condition. So we kept it here overnight because we were going to go ahead and do a full two-step correction on this van and get it looking to as good as new. So if you guys want to see the amazing transformation, stay tuned because you don't want to miss this. All right guys, so before we begin, we want to make sure that we decontaminate the surface. So upon further inspection after we wash the car, you'll find that it's extremely contaminated, and you'll know that just by feeling the paint. I mean guys, just check this out, just hear this. It sounds like sandpaper. It's extremely contaminated. Today we want to make sure that we decontaminate the surface, we give it the paint correction that it needs. So to begin this process, we're actually going to start off by clay barring the paint. Now the reason I have two different clay bars is because I want to show you guys something. We have two different grades. We have the original, which is a mixture between a light and a medium, and then we have the heavy, which this paint is obviously going to need. Now the reason I have both of these today is because I want to show you guys, the actual visual representation of the contamination that's on the paint. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my clay lubricant. Now clay lubricant is designed to go with your clay bar to remove any kind of embedded contamination. You can use this as a lubricant with your clay bar so that you get the best slickness possible, so you have the smoothest claying experience ever. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a chunk of the OG clay bar. Now the OG, like I mentioned, it's a mixture between a light and a medium. Now in the case of this van, it's extremely contaminated. So the reason why I'm using this in the beginning is because I want to show you guys, because this clay bar happens to be on the lighter side, so we'll actually be able to see the contaminants that it's pulling off. So right now I'm going to make my way towards the car so I can show you guys this process. All right guys, so to begin this process, I'm going to feel the paint once again just so that you guys can actually hear the contamination. Now if your paint sounds like this, if you actually rub it and it feels very, very rough, then you want to clay bar your paint. Now this is just the clearest indication that you need to clay bar your paint, because you'll actually hear it. And in some cases, if you have a lighter colored vehicle, such as like a white, you'll actually see some brown, yellow specks on the paint, which is another indication that you need to clay it and remove that embedded contaminant. So right here, I'm using the OG clay bar. Now the reason I'm using it first, because I'm going to show you guys the embedded contamination. For best results on a heavily contaminated paint like this, you may want to go with the heavy, but just to show you guys the visual representation of us pulling off the contaminants, I want to show you guys with this lighter clay bar. So to begin the process, I'm going to spray some clay lubricant on the surface. Now in this case, I'm going to be extra generous with the clay lubricant because I want to have the smoothest claying experience. And right as you start, you'll kind of feel it very, very kind of raspy, and it may actually sound like you feel like you're scratching the paint, but you're not. You're just removing those embedded contaminants that's on the surface. It sounds pretty rough as you begin to do it, but as you gradually work the product, as you work the clay bar, then you'll start feeling it get smoother, smoother, and smoother to the point where you pretty much don't hear anything at all. Now you want to continue this process, go left and right. You can go up and down as well. Stay away from circular motions because you don't want to inflict any kind of swirls or scratches in your paint. So just go like that, back and forth. Now I'm going to stop right here. I'm not entirely done yet, but I do want to show you guys the embedded contaminants that it's pulling off. So this clay bar, it's a brand new clay bar, but you'll see that all the embedded contaminants that's in the paint, it's getting onto our clay bar. So the next thing that you want to do is, I usually just kind of like using the opposite side once it gets kind of contaminated like so, and then pretty much continue the process. And you guys will hear now that it doesn't sound as raspy anymore, which is a great thing for us because that's a clear indication that we're pretty much pulling out all the embedded contaminants that's in this little section. Now this paint is pretty contaminated, so in order for you to complete an entire van like this, it may take some time. However, with the clay bar, you're gonna get the results. You're just gonna have to spend a little bit more time just because the level of contamination that it has. And that brings me to my next point, which is the clay bar itself. So you see that right here, it pulled off all the contamination. So the next thing I'm gonna do is grab my towel, wipe off the excess, and I'm just going to pretty much be wiping off the excess of the clay lubricant and any kind of embedded contaminants that is still lingering on the surface. All right guys, so you guys saw the clay bar, how contaminated it got, how dirty it got. Now I'm going to show you guys the results. Now that was just using the OG clay bar, which was more of a mixture between like a light and a medium. And now I have the heavy one, which I'm going to use to continue and finish off the rest of the van. With the heavy clay bar, the only difference between this one and the other grades is that it's a lot more sticky. So what I mean by that is it's going to pull off more embedded contaminants much easier. So, you know, if your paint does look contaminated, such as this right here, you'll see it has more of like a dry, oxidized kind of look, versus the side on the right that is already clayed and it looks much better. So with the clay bar, you know, if you guys don't know already, you can use it on a variety of surfaces, including your paint. You can use it on your glass. You can use it on side mirrors, any kind of chrome. You can use it on headlights, smooth glossy plastics like your B-pillars, and pretty much any kind of smooth glossy surface on your vehicle. Now, for the purpose of this vehicle, I'm only going to be doing the paint and the glass just because, I mean, if I'm going to be doing the paint, may as well knock out the glass at the same time. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to clay bar the entire van, be right back with you guys so that we can begin the polishing process. All right, guys, so we just finished cleaning the car. As you guys can hear, pretty big difference before and after. The clay bar is a crucial process whenever you decide to either just simply wax your car or do a full-fledged paint correction. You want to make sure that your paint is cleansed of any kind of contaminants that's in it. So that's why we clay bar prior to polishing, and I highly recommend doing it prior to applying even just a simple spray wax or a carnauba wax, a sealant, especially a ceramic coating. You know, you want to make sure that your paint is as good as it can get, because the overall, you know, the coating that you apply on it is pretty much going to reflect the overall look of your paint. So if your paint looks like, you know, super scratched up and you apply a wax and you want to get more shine out of it, well, you're going to want to polish the paint to remove those scratches and swirls, so that way any kind of protective coating that you apply over it enhances it all that much more. So that's what we're doing right now. Before I do that, I'm going to mask off this hood and do a 50-50 section on what a side looks like corrected versus uncorrected, just so that you guys can see the main difference, just because I know it is kind of difficult to see on videos. However, I am going to be polishing one side, the driver's side, and I'll also pull it out into the sun for you guys so that you guys can check it out as well. So in this section right here, I'm going to go ahead and start off by masking off half of the hood. I'm going to do it as best as I can get it right in the middle. If it's not in the middle, I'm sorry guys, I can't really tell from here. So I'm going to just mask it. I'm going to put 2 pieces of tape just because this is the thinner tape. I couldn't find the thicker tape right now. So just want to make sure that I don't overlap and get my polisher on the opposite side. So now that that's all set up, I'm just going to make sure that it's well placed on the paint. And now we can begin the polishing process. So right here, the products that I'm going to be using today is going to be the Torque X, which is the little baby of the family. I'm just using this just because I want to show you guys that even with the small polisher, you can achieve incredible results. I'm going to be using it with the orange Quantum Hexlogic cutting pad. I'm going to be placing that on my machine. I'm using this combination of products because the DA motion is going to give us a great result, and this orange cutting pad is going to help expedite the process of cutting those scratches and swirls that are in the paint. As my product, I'm going to be using our C4 Clear Cut Correction Compound. If you guys haven't seen this product, make sure to check out our product video to see how amazing it is. If you haven't, then I'm going to show you guys right now. So I'm going to apply about 5 pea-sized drops onto my pad here. 3, 4, 5. Going to set that down. And then I'm going to craft some pad conditioner and simply moisturize my pad. Now I use the pad conditioner just to moisturize the pad, just so that we don't build up any excess heat that could potentially burn the paint. Now in this case, the pad conditioner also acts as a lubricant so that our pad glides nicely throughout the surface. The next thing that you want to do is grab your pad with your machine and simply blot out the area that you're going to be working on. Now in this case, I'm going to be working on this bottom portion of the hood before I move on to the other sections. So that's one of the more popular questions that we get, you know, how should I work my panels? When you're working on a hood like this, you want to work it in sections. So you don't want to do the entire half of the hood or even the entire hood for the matter, simply because you want to make sure that you have a nice consistency. So what's going to end up happening is, you know, you may pay more attention to this little section over here, and then once you get over here, you may just kind of like do a one pass here and, you know, not pay as much attention into this section that you did in this section. So then this way you have more of an accurate reading of what areas that you've already covered. So then that way you pretty much, you know, divide your vehicle into parts so that you don't feel frustrated, you don't overwhelm yourself, especially with the vehicle that's as large as this. All right guys, so now that I've blotted out my product onto the surface, now I'm just going to turn my machine onto speed setting 1 to just simply work it into this area that I'm going to be working it in, because the last thing that I want to do is have it on a high speed setting, turning it on and flinging away all this product. So speed setting 1, spread out, and then you can turn it up to the highest speed setting to work in the product. All right guys, so now that I'm done working the compound, now I'm gonna grab my my microfiber towel and wipe off the excess. Now right away, one thing I am noticing is that the paint looks much better. As far as clarity, you can definitely tell that the color looks a lot more, vibrant, has much of a bolder look. And just like that, with the orange pad and some C4 clear cut correction compound, you can achieve pretty incredible results. So in this part right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this side with the C4 clear cut correction compound. Make sure that we get that nice cut, because there are some heavier imperfections here and there that are going to require a little bit more work. So we're going to spend our time, get this half of the hood corrected, and then we'll be back with you guys to follow it up with the P4 and the white polishing pad. All right guys, so now that we're done working the C4, now we can proceed to wiping off the excess with a microfiber towel. Now, one of the best ways I like to remove this excess is by using our wipeout surface cleanser. Now, wipeout is great for, inspecting your paint. So you can use a product like this to help you remove any kind of compounds and polish that's on the surface of your paint, along with any kind of protective coating. So, let's say you didn't wash your car with like clean slate, you can use a product like this in the polishing process to remove any kind of residual waxes, sealants, or anything that's on the surface. Super easy to use. Simply spray the surface and then wipe it with a microfiber towel. And that's pretty much all it is. It's nothing crazy. All you gotta do is just wipe off the excess. And then you can come back with the second pass just to buff off any residue that may be still left behind. And just like that, we are done with the opposite side using the C4 clear cut correction compound and the Torque X with the orange pad. Looks amazing. I did another inspection on the paint afterwards, and I usually just do an inspection prior to moving on to the polishing process. Depending on how neglected the paint is, if it's really bad, you may have to do like an additional pass. In this case, I think one pass worked, great enough. There are still some micro imperfections, which is why we're gonna go ahead and refine it using our P4 Precision Paint Perfection Polish. So whenever you do a cut with like C4 or any kind of cutting compounds, it's best to follow it up with the finer polish just to kind of refine the paint, bring out the ultimate luster and clarity, and have the ultimate finish. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm just gonna come back with the white pad and the P4 just to refine this side, bring out the shine, and get this paint looking to as good as new. Now you can just stick with the C4, if you're happy with the results that you achieved with the C4, you can stick with that. If C4, if that's what you do and you're happy with the results, by all means, knock yourself out. Don't let anyone take away from your shine, and you can go ahead and proceed with applying your favorite chemicalguys sealants, glazes, waxes, ceramic coatings, or whatever it is that you're going to be doing. So in this case, we're going to follow up with some P4. We'll be right back. All right guys, so now that we're pretty much done working the P4, you guys saw it wasn't really all that crazy. P4 is actually much quicker to work just because the abrasives are much finer, which means that it just pretty much glides over the paintwork and it just refines it, bringing out the ultimate clarity. So as you guys can see, I'm pretty happy with the results. It looks amazing. A huge before and after as far as the clarity, the depth, the overall sparkle of the metallic, and of course, the scratches and swirls being gone. All right guys, and that pretty much wraps it up as far as the paint correction phase on this van. So the only thing left to do is actually to finish it all up. So I'm actually gonna grab AJ because it's a whole lot of van to polish. So AJ, why don't you come on in and help me out and get your grandpa's ride looking to as good as new. So we're gonna wrap up this van and then we're gonna top it off with some Hydro Slick ceramic coating just to kind of protect the paint, give it that deep ceramic shine, and make sure that all the work that we put into this van today does not go to waste. So that ceramic, the Hydro Slick, is gonna last up to 12 months of amazing ceramic protection, making this van look amazing, shining, protected, and a lot easier to maintain. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give this video a like. If you guys like AJ's grandpa's van, comment down below, comment your favorite thing about it, or leave your rating down below on how amazing the paint correction came out on this van. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.